VikesNow. I am Dustin Baker. We are here, the week three edition. The Vikings are 1-1, although I will confess, if you take the pulse of the fan base, it feels like they're 0-2. But they are 1-1. Thank God they came up with a fourth quarter comeback against the Bears in week one. I'm here with Nate Porter, who was on the show a couple months ago. Nate, you are back. How are you, my man?
I'm good, man. What's up? Thanks for having me for a second time. I'm glad to talk some Vikings football. Let's get to it.
Yeah, I want to level set here. I think other than an NFC championship loss in my 30 years of Vikings fandom, there are a few, sadly, or maybe Teddy Bridgewater's knee in 2016. I can't remember such a swing in Vikings, and mine included, Vikings fan outlook on the team. Now, after McCarthy orchestrated the fourth quarter comeback against the Bears on Monday Night Football, I didn't think, oh, this team's winning the Super Bowl. But everything I had thought throughout the summer held true. Like, all right, they're gonna be 10-7 or something. Like they got the roster. Clearly, the quarterback has the chops when the game's on the line. And then after the ruthlessly lifeless performance against the Falcons, plus all of the injuries, God, it feels like they got to claw back to be relevant. Assess that statement. Are you feeling any differently than the rest of the fan base?
No, I think everyone has every right to feel the way that they're feeling. Obviously, the whole hype throughout the entire offseason was like, "Ooh, the puzzle piece is 99% complete. We just have this one guy that we don't know if he's going to fit in or not." And 7 of the 8 quarters, everyone wants to blame the quarterback. And he's definitely not the one to take all of the blame. The 22-year-old who had the spotlight on him for Sunday Night Football, Monday Night Football, just had a baby, and he's not 100% perfect and you're pissed off. Like, I think that there's a lot of fans out there that have been through a lot of heartbreak, totally understandable, but like, we just got to chill out. We got to relax and understand that, like, yeah, he's the youngest quarterback in the league. Give him some time to develop. He's not going to be the next Pat Mahomes right off the rip. Like, give us some time. But the woes that come from the offensive line, the play calling, the injuries, I mean, playing on Soldier Field, I can understand why Darisaw wasn't playing, and then you see what happens to Blake Cashman, and it's like, this field's really gonna cause some injuries that are gonna take us down the line without a starting linebacker, and then concussion with Van Ginkel, concussion with Ryan Kelly. There's just too many injuries that keep getting racked on this list, and you could put any quarterback in that situation, and with those same play calls, and they're not going to do well either. So I don't know. I think the first thing that these fans should look at is like, oh, well, this offensive line is not close to 100%. And Kevin O'Connell, I think, is also noticing, oh, my plays are taking way too long to develop for the young quarterback. He shouldn't have the ball in his hands for this long. He has plenty of weapons, but the line isn't necessarily holding their ground for as long as they could be. I don't know. Maybe throw a couple quick dump offs, maybe emphasize that when it's first and goal on your two, run the freaking ball instead of having a lot of razzle dazzle. It doesn't need to be there. Like, I don't know. There's a lot of things that go to blame, and I think those top two things are O line and play calling.
Yeah, in case we don't point it out, I want to lift up the Kevin O'Connell is due for a good game by him. Like we're looking at four straight games of play calling going back to the Lions, the Rams, and then Bears, of course, and probably the granddaddy of them all, the Falcons, where it's like the offense either sputtered, sucked, or couldn't be consistent. So hopefully the coach of the year has something in his bag. Which brings me to Carson Wentz, my man. I have four central questions. The first one was just kind of a bonus that came to mind, but I want to ask you this. My first question is Carson Wentz going to cook? Is this the latest installment in backup quarterback just total bliss? Because that's always happens to the Vikings. Is Carson Wentz going to do that as well?
um, that all depends on my previous statement. Like, how well is the O line going to be, and how is the play calling going to be changing? I would assume that Darisaw's back, being a full participant in practice. I don't know if it's Minnesota that's saying he's not good to go, or if it's Darisaw saying he's not good to go. But regardless, they need him on the field. The offense is an awful situation, and he would help tremendously on the left side if he would come back this week. And the play calling, like I was saying, was taking way too long to develop and didn't seem to abide to the fact that the offensive line was weak, and that JJ McCarthy still was trying to get a little bit of momentum and try and find some rhythm. And these plays that take too long to develop, or he has the ball in his hand too long, it's never going to work. This offense has been boring and bland, but KOC knows it. I bet he calls a run next time that his offense is first and goal on the two. But I envision Kevin O'Connell hitting the reset button and going back to what he does best, getting these random quarterbacks to win football games for the Minnesota Vikings. So to answer your question, yes, I do think that Carson Wentz is going to cook as long as those concerns are addressed. I think that Wentz is good enough to win a couple of football games for this team. Of course, that there's going to be the typical mistakes and turnovers, but he's also a journeyman on, I believe this is his fifth team in 5 years or something crazy like that. Um, but now he's got a chance to potentially start 3+ games for this franchise that has Addison coming back. Well, I don't know. I think there's a lot of optimism with this guy. I mean, what fun is it if you don't have the optimism with this guy? And his next three opponents, Cincinnati and Cleveland, their defenses, besides Cleveland, their defense is actually pretty all right. But Cincinnati is 24th in yards allowed per game, and Pittsburgh is 29th in yards allowed per game. And one of those is a home game, and two of those are neutral site games where you don't even have to go to the away team. I don't know. I think that there is a good amount of momentum and energy shift that can happen with these said Vikings. And I know it's asking a lot, but he has the tools to rebrand himself to come out of this little slate 2-1, 3-0, hitting the bye week. And then all of a sudden, Minnesota's 4-1, 3-2. And I feel a lot different than I do right now. So I think that he will cook, and I think that he can help these Vikings win a few games.
Well, he'll get his chance, and this is the team he famously grew up cheering for, so it'll be a full circle moment for him. I want to pound home the fact the 3 game gauntlet you pointed out. This is as easy as it's going to get the rest of the way,
Mm-hmm.
outside of playing the Bears again, maybe the Giants if they're still kind of morons late in the season. If you want the Vikings to stay relevant, they got to win 2 out of these next 3. Because after the international trip, there's a bye week, and then after that, you're looking at Eagles, Chargers, Ravens, and Lions. And even when the Vikings are like really good, we would look at that 4 games and be like, God, hopefully we go 2-2. So with a team that has stumbled recently and that can't tackle all of a sudden, offensive line, we're not sure when it's going to come together. Like they gotta win these somewhat easy, these winnable games. I won't say easy, but winnable games. So it's a lot to put on Wentz. We're asking him for this, but it's so ingrained in our psyches for the backup quarterback to come in and we fall in love and the guy does great. But I'm gonna ask you this. This is central question number 2. I don't know if what Adam Schefter and them reported that it's like 2 to 4 weeks or games or whatever that is with a high ankle sprain, if that's gospel or if he'll be questionable next week and we'll debate whether or not he's coming back. But I'm going to ask you this, whether Carson Wentz is absolutely fantastic. We're talking 350 yards, 3 touchdowns against the Bengals, completely mediocre, or they put in Max Brosmer, whatever the scenario. Does JJ McCarthy get his job back immediately when his high ankle sprain has healed?
This is a tough one. This I Wentz is winning football games. Like if it ain't broke, don't fix it. I At the end of the day, I understand this is your franchise quarterback. You have the tools around him, and you have the 5th-year option. He's got 3 seasons left after this one to be the franchise quarterback. I understand wanting to continue developing him and wanting to see what he's made of throughout the season as soon as he gets back. But winning games, I think, is more important. I can also see the next few games being the reason to continue with the veteran. Like you said, those are going to be the easier or more winnable games. Carson Wentz comes out of this 2-1, 3-0 before the bye. If Wentz is a winner, he should stay under center. Unfortunately for McCarthy, the next game that he will be available to play, like I said, if it is the 2 to 4 weeks after the bye, is Philadelphia, and then 4 days later on Thursday Night Football against the Chargers, then at Ford Field, and then playing Baltimore the week after that. I do not want JJ McCarthy playing those games, especially if he is still hurt, especially if we still are. I mean, if we have a rhythm with Wentz, and there's something actually going for that, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Keep him under center. If he fails during those games, yeah, throw JJ back in there. That's completely fine if he's healthy. I say let the ankle heal and don't rush yourself into it. But this offensive line needs to be where it should be. And if you put any quarterback behind that offensive line, they will get hurt. Um, the I don't know. Back to the whole McCarthy needs a break thing. Like cut him some slack. I think that fans will. I don't know. Hopefully, after a while of him actually being a pro football player and getting more snaps, that he will slowly, gradually be a little bit better. And I mean, with Addison, that's going to be added to this offensive well. Like, I just think that there's going to be some obvious changes that this offense will do to help him in the future. But if Carson Wentz is doing great, I want to keep him in there because at the end of the day, like it's Super Bowl or bust. That's how it should always be. If you're winning, keep that same strategy going. I wouldn't want to change it.
Let's assume that it is the 3 to 4 games prognosis for McCarthy because this brand of Vikings loves to be cautious with injuries. I want you to predict, will we see Max Brosmer in this next month?
Ooh, that would be awesome, honestly. I mean, nothing against Carson Wentz, but if he's also playing, Dookie, then I would love to see Max Brosmer get his chance in there. He was a preseason champ. I loved seeing his highlights. Everyone on Vikings Twitter loved seeing his highlights. And he looked like a good ball player coming out of old Minnesota. I think that it would be something that the fans could be all over about and the optimism would still be there.
Mhm.
I do feel like these fans, no matter who the quarterback is, they still have some slight optimism. It's just the hardcore ones that are way too critical of JJ McCarthy, and I don't know what the actual percentage of those people are, but I do believe you could put any of these quarterbacks under center, and the fans would be behind it, the team would be behind it, and yeah, I would like to see Brosmer. That'd be cool. But Wentz has shown flashes of being a pretty good quarterback too, so yeah, I'd like to see Carson Wentz win Minnesota the next, 15 football games. That'd be fantastic. Or
You
Brosmer,
know,
whoever can do it.
the last time Wentz was a starter, I think with the Colts in 2022 or 2021, whatever it was, he threw 27 touchdowns and 7 picks. And I didn't know that until I was doing my homework on him this week. My theory here is I'm pretty damn sure that almost no matter what, the Vikings will go back to McCarthy when he's ready. And I think the only reason right now we're like, ooh, I don't know if that's a good idea, is because we have the sour taste of the last game in our mouth. Like he's
Yep.
not always going to have that slow processing. Like he's going to get better. There will be times when he plays like fourth quarter Soldier Field McCarthy. And, so we don't have to. The thing that really sucks is with this injury, the latest memory we have of him is looking futile. And that's not how he's always going to be. The only thing I can see if I'm wrong and they don't give him the baton right away is they might massage it. Let's say Carson Wentz, let's say we win 3 in a row. This is what the Vikings do when the best player or a keynote player goes out. They start winning games. They did it with Darisaw last year. They won, what, 8 or 9 straight after Darisaw got hurt. They
Hmm.
won 5 straight after Jefferson got hurt in 2023. It's wild. The only thing I can see would be they massage the timeline. So they win those three by a week. Then it's the Eagles. There might be a like, hey, you know what? We're gonna rest him for give him 4 more days until Thursday night football. We're gonna let Wentz go up against his old employer. Like I can see a little bit of the push out of the timeline, like as an excuse. We just want to have a couple more days. It seems like they enjoy doing that. That's really where I see the only hesitation to give McCarthy the job back because it's not they didn't like just snag this guy for shits and giggles. They're invested in him. The jitters that some of us might have about him looking so raw, like this is how it goes. I swear, Josh Allen looked very bad in his first season. Like his EPA per play or EPA CPOE through his first 2 games were worse than McCarthy's. And like we've just got spoiled about Jaden Daniels, CJ Stroud in 2023, Justin Herbert in 2020. Not every guy is like that. So I think they go back to McCarthy sooner rather than later. And I'm going to differ from you a little bit. Like, yes, the goal is to win a Super Bowl, and if Wentz happens to do that, it'll be fantastic. But I would rather go 5-12, 6-11 with McCarthy than 10-7 with Wentz, and then we lose in the first round of the playoffs. I've seen that so many
Yeah.
times. I
Yeah.
want McCarthy to develop this year, and by the time we get to next summer, we know that we're going to start to really see McCarthy in all of his glory, and whether or not that's fantastic, mid, somewhere in between, or even bad, at least we'll have a verdict. All right, the next thing I got 2 more, good sir. these are all kind of building on one another. Will the Vikings make this season relevant after this woeful game on Sunday Night Football?
Yeah, I believe so. This is the optimism coming out. Like, unless they are mathematically eliminated from the playoffs, like I will always look anyone dead in the face and say like they'll make the playoffs. But the injuries may hinder those optimistic outcomes. And like we were saying earlier, whatever energy is with this team right now, I wouldn't put my money on them being successful. Everything has been just off and flat, and there needs to be a shift. And I think the best way to do that is to just win a regular noon game. It seems that they seem to be doing all right for those, and just baby step it week by week, find their footing. And if they can come out of this slate before the bye, getting 2 out of 1, 3-0, there's still a very good chance that they'll be all right this season. And if they do believe after the bye that McCarthy is ready to play, like, yeah, send it, go for it. Those juggernauts, I'm scared will tear him to bits. But after those next 4 games, then it's like, okay, there's a bunch of NFC South, and then it's some division games, and boom, the season's over. So it's gonna come here before we know it. And as long as they just, oh, I don't know, I believe so that they will be relevant. But if they decide to stick with McCarthy after this bye and they don't do so hot, I'm not against it. Obviously, we want to win football games and see him do the thing, but there's also you gotta how do I want to say this? You got to develop your quarterback that you're going to have for the next 4 seasons. You got to be able to make that your number one priority. So if that means making this season irrelevant, so be it. That's perfectly fine. But I don't know. If they're winning football games with Carson Wentz, let it be, let it ride. But it does cause more controversy for that conversation. But we also haven't seen Carson Wentz take a single snap. He might be horrible, and then we're going to be like, get JJ under there right now, get him back. We need him back. But who knows? As long as they can baby step their way to winning these next few games, and then we'll see how the Philadelphia Chargers, the Ravens, and Lions games go. That's going to be, I think, the real key point of if they're going to stay relevant or not after those 4 games.
It'll sound ludicrous, but I'm sticking by my 10-7 projection, even with a murderous schedule. And it's because with JJ McCarthy, I think if the ankle sprain never happened, I would have quasi trusted him to bounce back against the Bengals. Now, that doesn't mean he's going to go off and be absolutely wonderful. It means that I don't think that he would have, bobbled so many snaps. Everything looked herky jerky on offense. I would have trusted him to start to take the positive steps against the Bengals. Now we have to wait for however long. So I already know that Kevin O'Connell can cook with Carson Wentz. I'm pretty damn sure of it. I think Max Brosmer would do okay. I still have to see it to believe it because preseason sometimes really jades how we look at things. But I'm sticking by it because Kevin O'Connell's a good coach. They're due to get off the schneid on offense. Man, it's been a long time since they looked good on offense. If you go back to last season, so
Mm-hmm.
I'm sticking by 10-7. It probably seems really bold right now, but right now we're just bogged down in how bad they looked on Sunday night, and I don't think that because JJ McCarthy looked like shit on Sunday night that, well, it's going to take him at least 6, 7 weeks to get normal or even like remotely good. I don't think that's the case. I think he had a bad rookie game and that could have been rectified as soon as this week or the week after that. That's my take. All right, the last thing I got for you, and I asked this one because it really bugs me. The only grievance at all that I have with Kevin O'Connell is running the football. Every summer, pretty much since he got here, we we kind of talk about like, all right, well, they're gonna run the rock a lot more this year. We're gonna take the pressure off the quarterback. We're gonna have this little renaissance of running the football. Every year they kind of even up the play calling, and then we're like, this can work. And then they get Aaron Jones, and he looks a lot better than Alexander Madison. But so far in 2025, especially with McCarthy, they didn't have not really run the football that much, and it's been decent when they have. I have a fear that the Vikings can never, ever truly become Super Bowl contenders if they can't run the football. So, do you believe that Kevin O'Connell will ever truly commit to the run and unlock the efficiency of a playoff rushing offense?
I obviously he should. And I was reading that Minnesota has ran the ball on, I believe, 47% of plays, which is just a huge difference from what we're compared to like back in the Kirk Cousins days when that would have been like 30, 35%. And I believe, and that's the reason we signed or that they signed Jordan Mason. Like, oh, you have this other guy that you can kind of rely on in the run game to help Aaron Jones out. And obviously they got Cam Akers again, which is hilarious. But the thing with Kevin O'Connell's, I believe the same thing that you believe, is that every successful offense has to do both. They have to be able to run the ball great and they have to be able to pass the ball great. But I think the real stinger is the moments that he chose to pass when it was an obvious running situation. Um, I mean, right before that punt, whenever there was still 9 minutes left of the game, it's like, just go for it, man, please. Watch the beginning of the second quarter against Atlanta when there finally was some momentum and rhythm going with this offense. After Jordan Mason looked great on the run, had a couple of first downs there, a couple of receptions, and after two great completions to Thielen and Naylor, you're at your two. McCarthy just went 5 for 6 with 59 yards on that drive alone. First and goal at the two, and you run play action. Luckily, the ball slipped out of his on the fake pitch. It slips out of his hands. He throws it out of the back of the end zone. Still second and goal at the two. You avoided it. Break the huddle. And then the weird thing where there was still plenty of time on the play clock. There was like 11 seconds left, and that ref wouldn't get out of JJ McCarthy's way. And then, oh, there's 2 seconds left on the play clock. Let me get out of your way, and then call a delay a game. That was weird. And then you run another play action play when it's you go back another 5 yards, you get sacked, third and goal, then you're sacked again at the 15. You just lost 13 yards and you should have ran the ball. Just run the ball, please. And with Cam Akers in the mix, we should see a good amount of run plays. Add some quick passes, a few no huddles, be fast and gain each play little by little. Just be a little bit more unpredictable. Keep the fans in it. Try to prevent gassing the defense. And that was another big reason why Atlanta won that game. The time of possession was horrendous. And I know it's easier said than done, but once they can start converting on third downs and keep that defense off the field a little bit longer and keep the time of possession clock ticking, I do feel like it is going to shift. And just, I don't know, you don't need to get 50 yards every single offensive play. It's okay to get 3 or 4 yards every single play. It's okay. But yeah, stick to the run, trust in Jordan Mason. He's a dog. And I think that he will do pretty all right if KOC gives him the chance. So I would
Just
love to
looked it up.
see that.
I just looked that up, and this is why we have you on the show, Nate. The Vikings have run the ball 47% of the time, which ranks ninth in the NFL based on the percentages. So that gives me renewed hope. It's just it doesn't feel like it because I think the offense has just sucked, except for one quarter, and the time of possession is still upside down, that they're not on offense that often. But the percentage is there. So that proves to me that they want to do that. They've ran the football percentage wise more than the 49ers, the Chargers, who we thought were a run first team, the Bears, who notoriously run, maybe not under Ben Johnson, but the mindset is there. So that gives me hope, especially with Jordan Mason in here and what we think will be a good offensive line. When we were talking about the offensive, or basically Kevin O'Connell's play calling, how that has gotten on our nerves in the last 2 weeks. He probably thought, like we all thought, the offensive line would be good and JJ McCarthy would be a decent processor, even as a rookie. And when the offensive line hasn't done as good as we thought, and then McCarthy has looked shaky, shame on O'Connell for not pivoting and saying, all right, well, we got to do things a little bit differently. It seems like he's stuck to his long developing plays, his bread and butter is that, big chunk play offense, where in those moments you probably need to do some quick hitters and God forbid a slant. I don't know if the Vikings have ever done one of those. They're just not allowed. All right, sir. Anything else you want to mention?
I think that there's a lot of fans out there that are just so used to being bitter that the negativity isn't going to help nothing. There's just be there for the ride, man. Even if it's Carson Wentz that's going to do it for the next 3 weeks and then McCarthy hops on, or maybe Brosmer gets in there. Whatever happens, just be there for a ride. It's a Minnesota Vikings season. It's going to be unpredictable. It's going to be weird. There's going to be strange things that happen. It's never going to go to plan, but we'll see how it ends up. And I don't know. I'm excited to see how this goes. I do think that they can still sneak their way in there, but I don't know. I mean, the Kansas City Chiefs are owned too. I mean, there's different teams out there that are also struggling still early in the season. I think not Saint, I almost said St. Louis Rams, the Los Angeles Rams. They started 1-4 last season, still made the playoffs. Like, still a little optimism to be had. And, it's not the end of the season after 2 games. So that's all I got to say, I guess.
I actually think the Vikings will win this week. I do believe in Wentz mania. I don't think he'll be elite, but I think he'll feel like a breath of fresh air because we're actually moving the sticks. I have the Vikings 24-20 over the Bengals. What about you?
Ooh, let's do you know what the over under is?
2.5. Oh, wait a second. I'm sorry.
No,
The
all
spread,
good.
point spread is 2.5 for the Vikings. I don't know what the over under is, so sorry.
So I would assume probably like 47 ish. Let's
Yeah.
go. Let's go 20, no, 31-24 Minnesota.
Okay, so slightly higher
Battle of the
scoring.
back. Yeah, battle of the backups.
Yeah, the Bengals have two Vikings quarterbacks, Jake Browning and Brett Rippon is his backup. So it's just this big festival. All right, sir. We will hit your line again probably in a few weeks, chat. Hopefully this thing has turned around when we hit that really meaty part of the schedule. Hopefully they're at least 500. All right, man. You have a great weekend, okay?
You too. See you next time.
Yep.
Have a good one.
Later.